The story begins with a girl who has her own YouTube channel, who is going to start broadcasting in which she will tell some interesting story to her subscribers. She tries to put on makeup and dress up beautifully in order to please herself and her subscribers. She enjoys it. She looks at herself in the mirror and realizes that she looks great. Today she once again did a cosplay of the main character of her favorite novel. So she has to hurry up, because she's doing what she loves. She's always in a great mood, and she enjoys the process and the fact that someone enjoys her art. She has set up a special office with 2 monitors and a lot of equipment, and she needs this for the working atmosphere, because it is much more pleasant to work in a nice room that is equipped according to her own taste. She sets up for the broadcast and checks that everything is set up for work. Once she is sure she can start broadcasting, she starts broadcasting and says hello to her subscribers. But because she was so obsessed with her appearance, she was constantly thinking about how well her makeup was working, and she was constantly looking at herself, controlling her appearance. Her channel was called ASMR Pure. Her channel specializes in ASMR. When she was a teenager, she lost her parents. Then she had to live with relatives and combine her studies with part-time jobs. When she won an award in a reading contest, she decided to create a literary channel. This turned into ASMR content, and now streaming is her main job. She asked her subscribers, "Do you recognize who I did the cosplay on?" Then they started actively writing comments and guessing. She enjoyed the fact that her followers were very active and chatting with her online, and she had over 1,500 viewers. She felt someone was interested in her as a blogger, and that means that someone likes her work, and she has regular viewers. Cosplay she did is taken from the cover of the 2nd volume of this piece. It's an alternate dark version of the main character. She actively starts writing that they're familiar with this Roman, and would like to know the sequel as well. To which she replies, in honor of the official collaboration on this broadcast, I will read all the chapters up to the 15th. Begins to read. Since she liked what the viewers liked what she liked too, she takes even more pleasure in doing it all for them. I didn't know anything. What kind of a man he is. What he thinks about. Charles, 5th Emperor of the Empire of Marseille. Cara Frederic de Luzou Marseille. And I am his wife, Luna de Blanc. He had a secret that he kept even from me. At this time she gets a lot of comments written to her about how she has a very beautiful voice and how it's the best cosplay they've seen. They are thrilled with the way she conducts her broadcast. He suffered for a long time from insomnia, but one medicine and no magic could cure his illness. At the time she read this novel, she was very surprised by the plot and very much taken in. What is it? She wondered. In the end, he makes the decision to lie in bed with someone in his arms until he gets bored. And that person was not me. Meanwhile, she keeps writing comments about how shocked they are at the beginning of this novel, and how bad this main character is. But suddenly, something happens that will change the blogger's life incredibly quickly and unexpectedly. She begins to notice that something is wrong with her, and she gets very sleepy during the broadcast. And this has never happened before. She started trying to come to her senses. After all, everything is very responsible. She didn't want to let her subscribers down, who are passionate about listening to the story. There was a maid in the palace who helped him through the night. And yes, I don't even have servants for anything. And then I decided to end with quite this. Man's cradle. That's what they wrote to her in online chat. Everyone laughed about how that heroine was like a cradle man. Hey, I'm so proud of myself every time Suddenly the unbelievable happens. It was as if she began to close her eyes uncontrollably and fall asleep. After all, this had never happened. She was very responsible in her broadcasts and would never have allowed this to happen. But it was as if something was forcing her to fall asleep. She had absolutely no control over it. At this time, her subscribers started chatting that she was really asleep already. She begins to think to herself why she is so sleepy she can't seem to control her body. As soon as she starts to come to her senses, she manages to open her eyes for a moment. But she doesn't realize what's happened to her yet. She says to them, sorry guys. My own voice lulled me. Ha ha. But why aren't my hands moving? Is this a dream? Ouch! What is it? She thought. I feel like I'm in weightlessness. Ha 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 ha. Follow us, don't fight back, and don't scream. This is the Imperial Palace after all, someone said to her. As suddenly she found herself in some kind of palace. She was wearing a beautiful dress and other hair, red in color, and flanked by 2 men of some sort, who were leading her in an unknown direction. What for? Who are you people? Of course it was very frightening to her, because she didn't understand how such a thing was even possible. It was as if she had found herself in the body of the main character of that novel she was reading to her subscribers on the air. But that she would understand a little later. She begged to be let go. It was unclear to her why they were holding her hands and what they wanted to do. Because she was in a state of shock, she thought they wanted to hurt her. One of them covered her mouth and told her to be a little quieter and not to ask unnecessary questions. While they were taking her somewhere, she was trying to figure out what was going on, and she looked around. She noticed that she was wearing completely different clothes, and it was like she wasn't in her body. I looked at myself in some reflection and noticed that her hair was red, and she didn't recognize herself at all. What is this? Where am I? She thought. I was just doing a broadcast. And this must be a dream. Next to them, 2 men let another girl in. Then some woman came up to them and asked to see their faces. First, she approached the girl who was being held by the hands of the 2 men in the same way. And then she approached Sophia. But she thought, who is Sophia? After all, she looks at me and addresses me. To which the woman goes on to say, this is your first night. So, let me tell you about some prohibitions. Then she begins to tell them the rules. First, without the emperor's permission, you cannot make any sounds. Second, without the emperor's permission, you may not move. Third, you must obey any order from the emperor. These rules seemed to her to be quite strict, and as if designed to completely forbid anything to be done, and to destroy all freedom of speech and movement. This was, of course, outrageous. Once you enter the chambers, you must adhere to these 3 rules. Do you understand? Asked that woman. But at this time, she doesn't understand why she shouldn't listen to these rules. And what right do these people have to forbid something and tell her about the rules? What on earth is going on here? She thought. This woman noticed that Sophia was not listening to her attentively, and appealed to her not to hang in the clouds. She did not like the fact that she did not take seriously whoever was talking to her and everything that was going on. But it's all because she can't understand how she got here and who all these people are, and why she has to follow any rules. Your first night? But what does she mean by that? And in that moment she wondered, am I really not in my body? It just gives me goosebumps. Emperor's peace? What the hell is that? If you suddenly think his actions are strange enough, use this. The Marquis of Roses will come to the rescue immediately, said that woman to her. Then the great gate opened, and the emperor came. His servants addressed him, Your Majesty, we brought them. I'm so sick of this. Let me in. For some reason the doors did not immediately open. Is it true? The 2 of them even fell off their feet when they realized who was about to come in. The girl who was sitting next to her was very upset that she was in a situation where she was like a servant and had no right to a word or an extra move. But Sophia was just bewildered and thought, what kind of person am I thinking? For some reason they were frightened that that emperor was about to come in and do something that would hurt them or hurt them. That gate was opening very loudly, so it gave even more fear. That's him, the real one, Carl. He came in and started looking at them, but they didn't know how to behave or how to greet him properly. She knew at once that it was the tyrant from the novel, The Time of the Witch is Coming, Charles Frederick de Luzzu-Marcel. Readers call him someone who treats his subjects very badly, and a terrible lord, as well as an overbearing man. Being around him is a challenge, though he didn't look so cruel. And here she thought, well, now I'm definitely finished. Despite Carl's disgusting character, the author described his appearance in great detail. Unbelievable. Don't you understand words? He asked her, to which she bowed, not wanting to make him angry again. He was looking at her, and that made her even more afraid, because she does not know how cruel he is to those whose behavior or word he does not like. It is one thing to read a novel, and another thing to be in the place of the heroine, who directly feel it all on her body. All the cruelty is not in words but in deeds. And then she began to remember the rules that the woman had told her. The prohibitions she was telling you were really important and should not be ignored. She tried to remember every word of hers in as much detail as possible, so that she could remember these rules always, because just one violation could have a very bad effect on her relationship with the emperor. And at last she understood why he looked at them as if they had done something wrong. Is it because that girl was crying? She thought to herself. You probably don't hear what I'm saying to you. He turned to that girl. She was even more frightened and didn't know how to calm herself down. After all, this is more important than ever. He grabbed her hand, and at that moment her whole life flew before her eyes. For some reason, she asked very loudly for help, because she thought he wanted to hurt her in some way. but she had no idea what she would have to go through because of words like that. After all, it doesn't cost him anything to punish someone in some way, or to make it clear that he shouldn't have done that. "Save?" he asked. It made him angry right away, and he said to her, "Ha ha ha, don't make me laugh. All who want to live with me in this palace obey me." And then something happened that made all the readers of that novel hate this main character, and that is for his cruelty, which is exactly what is happening to this girl right now. He wanted to hit her, and he said, "If you want to get at least the crumbs from the table, you behave yourself, and don't let me hear anything like that." And she in no way could have expected that he could be so cruel, and for seemingly not such a rude word to him, because she is a girl who has done him no harm, and even over such a small thing, he would have allowed himself to hit her. But suddenly the unexpected happened. He could not have expected such a thing from Sophia, for no one before could afford to stop the Emperor when he decided to hit someone. But she decided to do it, because it's just not permissible for her to treat a girl who hasn't done anything wrong to him that way. "What are you doing?" he asked. This action put the Emperor into a stupor. She told him to stop, because that kind of thing is not acceptable to a girl, whoever he is. While she really hadn't done him any harm, he had no right to treat her so cruelly. It took him a long time to realize that someone had stopped him, and that it was some girl he had never seen before, and who had no right to do so. Then he looked at the way she looked for a while longer, and he seemed to like her. You can tell from the fact that he didn't immediately start reacting rudely, and he was relatively calm for a long time. And then an awkward situation happened. At some point she lost her courage, realized what she had just done. She began to realize that she had seized the Emperor's own hand and ordered him to do something. Why, she immediately let go of his hand and began to smile at him as if nothing had happened, and told him that it was time for her to run away. He smiled and said nothing at first. It was hard to know what that meant, because before he hit that girl he smiled too. But what to expect from him now, no one could imagine. She doesn't know where to go, because it looks like something terrible is about to happen. She wants to get away because she must have really pissed him off. Then he said to her, "I've never met anyone so crazy in my life. No one has dared to do such a thing. You're something special. Did you tell me to stop? Or did I hear it?" "How dare you give orders? Weren't you told about the rules you have to follow? Don't you have enough to live for?" He said all that very seriously, as if he wanted to teach her a lesson. After all, he had never let anyone order him around before. Because she is not used to tolerating such cruel treatment of girls in her normal life, and moreover to live in a world where she has no freedom, it was all unaccustomed to her, and she considered it necessary to do so in this situation. But since she is in the Emperor's palace, she has to put up with it all and follow the rules, as much as she didn't want to do otherwise. Making excuses, she said that she herself did not notice how. When suddenly she fell to the floor, apparently he pushed her or hit her. The moment she fell, she noticed that it was soft enough. But not for a moment did she take her eyes off the Emperor, for it was very important what he would say or do. She had to devote all her attention to him. And she caught herself thinking, what is she thinking of at all in such a situation? What other soft floor? Then she decided not to waste a second and made up her mind that she had to run. But something stopped her. She hit her head on something. Because she was in great pain, she did not have time to realize what had happened and what she had hit. Meanwhile, some pink-colored object fell out of her like a pebble, and she began to recall the words of the woman who had explained earlier about the rules. If you suddenly think that his actions are strange enough, then use this. The Marquis of Roses will immediately come to the rescue. You can rest assured of that. She realized that if she used it, someone would save her. But she found herself behind the Emperor, who was closer to that stone. He told her, "You'd better not resist too much." She began to have different thoughts, like that she was just about to be destroyed. Could that really happen? Though it's not surprising, because you can already expect anything from him. No. First he'll take what's most precious from me, what I've cherished for 23 years, and then he'll destroy it like a bug, she thought, and immediately began to ask for forgiveness. I was very unaccustomed to asking forgiveness from someone for such a thing, because she could not get used to such a life and to the body in which she was. It's not her normal life at all. It's not easy for her to be around these people. Suddenly she saw his hand, and she was very frightened because she thought he wanted to hit her like a girl the other day. She caught his gaze on her, but it wasn't angry. It was very strange because she didn't understand why he wasn't acting aggressively in this situation towards her. After all, she had just screamed. She opened one eye and looked at her surroundings, and noticed that the emperor was not at all aggressive, and he didn't want to hit her. She thought she must have screamed too loudly, and that's why he raised his hand at her. But she didn't understand why he raised his hand to her, what he wanted to do. While she was lying on the floor in a state of panic, she started to tell him, "I'm really sorry. How thought a lowly girl like me would spend the night with His Majesty?" For a second she was very frightened, and even forgot her duty. Then he said, why do you... She noticed that apparently her soft voice worked. Then she asked him, "Your Majesty, would you like to hear me? Please give me a chance to justify myself. I beg you very much." To which he answers her, "All right, I'm all ears." Although even the fact that he was not angry that she said something without his order and decided to listen to everything she had to say to him was very strange, because before he had never allowed anyone to say even a word without his order or agreement. She started to tell him, "Thank you. I actually have a little sister that I cherish very much. It's like a broadcast," she thought for a second. And then she went on to say she's almost the same age as... I was talking about something in a calm and quiet voice, and the audience was concentrating and listened intently. Some even said I was a cradle man. You must be well aware of the value of family. Charles lost all his loved ones when he took the throne. She knew this from the plot of the novel she had previously read in her regular life. So she decided to take advantage of that and press him. She decided to ask me versus Leon what she was going to say next, to which he told her to go on. "So I can't even believe how I dared myself. So please don't be mad at me and please don't destroy me." At this point, while she was telling something in her voice, something unexpected happened. The emperor seemed to pass out. He immediately fell asleep, collapsing on top of her. She didn't expect it to work so quickly, and she managed to put him to sleep with her voice. Had he really fallen asleep? Didn't he have insomnia? She began to think that after all, her voice could save her to some extent in a situation like this. She could use it as a lullaby, but it turned out to be very heavy. How should I get out of here, she thought. After all, it would be an ordeal to lie like this for a long time. At one point he began to hold her and sleep sweetly beside her. She felt very uncomfortable, but at the same time she was glad that she was able to put him to sleep in a few minutes. Her voice was so soporific that even a man like the emperor could fall into a very deep sleep in just a few minutes after a long period of insomnia. And at some point she began to realize what was going on at all. On her lies the emperor. She is in the body of the protagonist of the novel she read in her past life at home to her subscribers in her broadcast. What can we expect next? They had been lying on the bed for a long time, and she was watching to see how long her lullaby would last, and how long it would take him to wake up. This was very important, because she needed time to think about what to do next, and what he would say to all this. After all, they were lying in bed together now. Wow, what beautiful eyelashes he has, she thought. She could not afford to fall asleep next to him, so at this time she scrutinized him and admired how handsome he was. But she was only embarrassed by the fact that there was one great disadvantage in him. He was a terrible tyrant, and you should never relax thinking that he had reformed, even if he was treating you well at the moment. Because any word that he might like me carries with it bad consequences. She began to imagine only they live together, they love each other, and they make a good couple. Then she caught herself thinking that she was completely crazy, because Carl is a horrible tyrant, and how could she ever imagine being a good couple with him? It was silly. Of course, his character was also affected by his insomnia, so maybe getting some sleep now would affect his character in the future, and his relationship to the people around him. There was even such a thing that he could destroy a sidewalk lady from his torment. That is, when he was feeling bad, and no one had anything to do with it, it was no problem for him to blame it on someone, and just destroy someone. It's just amazing, because what does he even think of himself? How can he treat people who haven't even done anything wrong like that? And how can a normal person who is around him expect to be safe? As she lay with him, she had thoughts of escaping while he slept. But she also thought about the fact that she might make herself worse off by doing this, and that it would make him angry. After all, if he dared to take an innocent man's life, what could happen to someone who would actually piss him off and be really involved in something? Then she thought about what to do with that girl. After all, if this tyrant wakes up, what will they do with her then? At some point he woke up, didn't fully open his eyes. She was very shocked because she didn't know what to expect, whether it was for better or for worse. She decided not to waste a second and run away from him as quickly as possible to avoid any unpleasant situation. While she was trying to leave, he touched her and it gave her goosebumps. He pressed against her very hard and grabbed hold of her and wouldn't let go of her. And she was very uncomfortable with it, for one reason only. And it reminded her how cruel he was to people, and girls especially. If he had been an ordinary kind man, she would have enjoyed being next to him in the same bed, because she liked him a lot. But because she knows what kind of man he is, she felt a little uncomfortable being with him. Because she couldn't feel safe even when he was asleep. He started whispering something to her, asking her not to leave. Because of what she was used to, and for every word he said, she was literally chickening out and worrying even at this moment, when he was sleeping and whispering something to her. She was very anxious. Because every word he says makes her very anxious, she becomes uncomfortable. But the fact that she really liked him is a fact. After all, that is the only reason she is so kind to him and does not speak out about everything she thinks about him. She can't help thinking he's adorably handsome. Surprisingly, she mixes two opinions about him. On the one hand, she hates him for the kind of man he is, and therefore a character in the novel. She did not understand how it is possible to be such a tyrant, and also so much treatment of any man, even though he really may not be to blame for the situation. That kind of thing makes you not even want to be around such a person. But on the other hand, she likes the way he looks. She cannot exactly admire. But still, I never left the thought of how she could go back to her normal body and to her life. She hoped that maybe she would fall asleep now and wake up in her room and continue her broadcasts. She often thought about how this was possible. She was just reading a novel to her subscribers, and suddenly something started to put her to sleep and transported her into the body of the main character of that novel. How is that possible? At this time, there was a man walking down the hallway and sees that the guys who led Sophia to the Emperor are standing nearby and thinks, they haven't got milk on their lips yet. It was the Marquis of Roses. He approached one of them, whereupon they at once bowed down to him. That man began to speak. In an instant, the Emperor had an unusual symptom. When it begins, the Emperor loses himself and becomes unusually violent. Because of this, the ladies who came to him at night suffered and were injured. But the Emperor is unaware of his affliction, and he must by no means find out. I think nothing terrible has happened tonight. He went to the room where the Emperor and Sophia lie, but he does not yet suspect what he may see there. He approaches, and can't believe his eyes. What? He saw the Emperor and Sophia lying in embrace, and he couldn't believe his eyes. How could that even happen, he thought. Something is not right here. Suddenly they began to wake little by little, and the cameraman opened his eyes and saw Sophia lying before him. After which she too began to wake up, and she did not immediately understand where she was. They stare at each other for a few more seconds, and come to their senses after the dream. At this time she thinks he's just unrealistically handsome. She can't take her eyes off him. She wants to keep checking him out. But suddenly something happens. She finds herself on the floor. Apparently someone pushed her. At that moment she looked at the Emperor. She was puzzled. She noticed that he was frightened and thought, "Why did you shout at all? Should I shout in such a situation?" That man asked the Emperor, "Your Majesty, what is going on here?" Meanwhile, that girl was shocked to see Sophia and the Emperor in the same bed. In addition, they also slept together. Someone lifted the blanket and saw Sophia there. It's getting tenser and tenser depending on what the Emperor has to say. She wrapped herself in the blanket. She was very embarrassed by the situation she was in. It's very humiliating. Besides, she doesn't know what the Emperor will say about it. Just the thought makes her very scared. After that, she thought only that she did not even notice that she was dressed like that and slept in his arms. It simply could not be. At this time, the Emperor did something that upset her very much. He ordered her to get out. "Get out of here, get out quickly." That man called those girls to leave with him because it was better not to stay here. And since the Emperor could be made angry even by his presence, they didn't plan to be here with him for a second. Why is he acting like I'm the one who attacked him? Sophia thought. She was very uncomfortable with the fact that in fact she was not guilty of anything. He himself with her, and yet treating her so cruelly and rudely. All three of them began to follow the man, but they did not yet understand where he was leading them. They came to a place and he invited them in. They sat down with Sophia in front of the man. He stared at them for a while, and they did not understand why he was staring at them. This made them uncomfortable. Wasn't Sophia supposed to do that? To which the man says, "Because I wasn't called that night, I thought it went well." That was an outcome I never could have guessed. He reached out his hand to Sophia and wanted to do something, but she didn't understand what he was doing. "I want to heal the wound on your cheek," he said. "Wow, he really is a magician." "You mustn't show your injuries to the Emperor. That's why I gave you the artifact," he said. An artifact? Oh, he must be talking about that red stone, they thought. Then that girl said, "By the way, Sophia, thank you for protecting me from that Emperor yesterday. Otherwise, I don't know what could have happened. I'm very grateful to you." "Don't mention it. It's okay," answered Sophia. "Me and Frava. You didn't get hurt, all right?" asked Sophia. To which that girl replied, "Yes, it's okay, don't worry. Everything is fine." "So you slept with His Majesty last night?" "Yes, we slept together, but I'm fine." "Look," said Sophia. That girl and the man, when they heard that, they were a little shocked and didn't understand why she did it, because that's not what they thought was really going on. "It's all right, and we just fell asleep together, that's all." "Don't worry," said Sophia. "By the way, Grandpa, who are you?" they asked, because he didn't introduce himself and they were very interested in who he was. At this time, the Emperor had already woken up and was thinking about what was happening. He could not understand how this could happen, because he woke up in the same bed with this Sophia. He thought he had memory lapses again. Something strange has been happening to him lately. He was definitely awake, but he doesn't remember what happened at all. Most often this happens at night. He thought that these were the consequences of insomnia. He had footage of Sophia in his bed starting to pop up in front of his eyes. For him, it was very strange and incomprehensible, because he had never allowed anyone to lie with him in the same bed, especially the girl whom he had known for several hours. Then he began to get up little by little and felt something. He noticed that his headache was completely gone. He could not believe his feelings, because he immediately noticed it. He seemed to freeze for a minute to realize that what happened was incredible. He thought, "It can't be. I even feel cheerful." Then 3 years have passed since I took the throne. Then I started to suffer from insomnia. I could sleep about 2 hours a week, no more. But even after a short rest, I felt tired. But why? He was very happy that he felt great, began to notice how fresh the air was around, and began to laugh because he was pleased with his body sensation. He walked about his room very pleased and said aloud, "How long have I not enjoyed a beautiful morning?" He seemed to feel the enjoyment of life. Then he opened the curtain and saw what a beautiful palace they had. Even nature around him brought him pleasure. And singing incredibly beautiful birds. "That's what I slept," he said. But suddenly he understood something. He thought, almost the whole empire immediately knows that the Emperor has finally rested. It's too early, but how did it happen? What happened to me? Really? He looked back and remembered how he just woke up with Sophia. Thoughts began to come to him that it was she who influenced this. He began to think because I was lying with her in an embrace? It just can't be! Neither doctors nor magicians could cure my insomnia. Did a night with some girl solve my problem? The Emperor speaks. He can't understand, is this possible? But I slept for the first time in 3 years, he said. What if it was she who contributed to the fact that I fell asleep? This thought haunted him. He went to the mirror and began to think more and more about it. If this is true, he said. And at this time his eyes turned red from anger. Meanwhile, the man who took the girls from the Emperor went to the Emperor. He was stopped at the entrance by 2 guys and asked, Your Excellency, why are you in such a hurry to get here? To which he replied, I am to the Lord Emperor, His Majesty is inside, but they are in no hurry to let him in there. Your Majesty, we need to talk. If you pretend not to hear me, I will enter myself. Sir, please. Noisy. At this time, the Emperor noticed that it was very noisy outside the door, and decided to see what was happening there. He left his room and he was clearly out of sorts. He asks, Why are you so angry? Stop it. That man told him, I urgently need to talk to you. Please let me in. It is very important. But he took his head and said, What are you talking about? That man says, Do you happen to want to put her in the place of the Empress? This question was very humiliating for the Emperor. After all, everyone thought differently from how it was in reality. But the Emperor did not want to justify himself to anyone, and said to stop talking nonsense. He was already tired of these questions. But the man nevertheless decided to stop discussing this topic with me, because for him it was very important and interesting. He insisted that they talk about it, and told the Emperor, Your Majesty, there is absolutely no point in hiding it. You spent the whole last night together with her. What if she gets pregnant? All these questions seemed to the emperor as stupid as possible. It infuriated him very much. Because what kind of pregnancy? He simply does not know what he is talking about. But that man tries his best to tell him something on the subject, and says, I found a great way to solve this issue, but without listening to the end of the emperor says, drive her away. This order shocked the man as much as possible because he wanted to hear a completely different answer. He was clearly not happy with this decision of the emperor. To which the emperor said, she can cause a lot of trouble, so kick her out immediately. Your Majesty, this is too radical a way, do you understand that? We need to think carefully about this decision, said the man. What does he say and then what? But it happened between you two. That's embarrassing stuff like that, but still you gotta give her a chance. Think about it. The man tried in every possible way to convince the emperor from such a rash decision. He understood that the emperor was very angry, that such a situation had occurred and highlighted him not in the best light. But you can't be so cruel. The emperor thought about these words and decided to give Sophia a second chance. But why does he want to do this? He sat down at his desk and decided to say what he thought about it. At this time, the man said to the emperor, if you don't like it, I'll do it right now as you ask. To which the emperor ordered to bring her immediately to the bedroom. The man immediately understood to me that the emperor was ready to give Sophia a second chance and was already ready to put up with his orders. But at some point he heard the order to bring Sophia. This is not like the emperor. Apparently he saw something unusual in Sophia and decided not to rush to conclusions. After all, she did so that he could feel better. After all, this morning was unforgettable for him. He was pleased to wake up. Man could not believe that he was still able to convince the emperor about Sophia, because she seemed to him a good enough person, and he would not want him to kick her out of the palace so easily. The emperor repeated, I say, bring her to my bedroom. But why exactly in the bedroom, that man thought. Then he obeyed the emperor and followed Sophia. At this time the girl is sitting in some room and writing. This chair is called Gorgo de Roses. He is the best magician in the empire and the protector of the emperor. But he probably wasn't an important character, once sharply mentioned in the work. But I'm sure of one thing, he loves the color pink very much, she wrote. To survive in this world, I need to write down everything that I know and learn, unless they destroy me. She looked around and saw a mirror, after which she admired herself and considered herself sufficient. Even damn beautiful. She loved to admire herself very much and did not let go of the opportunity to compliment herself. This is Sophia's room. Can I find out something about it if I look closely? Then she opened some drawer and saw something there. She picked up some necklace that had someone's photo in it. It must have been Sophia's mom, the girl thought. Next, she noticed some letter that was hidden in the same box. But for some reason, she decided that she had the right to rummage through her personal things. She allowed herself to read this letter. She read, and it turns out that Sophia is this girl. Sophia, who is waiting for a cruel death at the hands of a tyrant. The elder sister of the moon of the main character of the novel. The time of the witch is coming. The main character's sister, who was thought to disappear, isn't actually missing. It turns out that I will soon die at the hands of a tyrant, she thought. Sophia's father, Robert de Blanc, sacrificed her to a tyrant and pushed her to certain death. No, wait, you need to calm down and think things through. I can't just die, she told herself. We need to remember the plot of the novel. When Karl was 8, his birth mother died of an illness. After he came of age, his father, the previous emperor, died of an unknown ailment. Then his grandmother, who was once an empress. An older brother, Crown Prince Matthias. Eventually, Charles becomes a tyrant and takes the throne. How much time is left? First, you need to run away from here, she immediately decided. But suddenly, those two guys who had previously led her to the emperor entered her room. She looked at them and was a little scared. His Majesty is looking for you. You must come with us. She was very scared because she thought he wanted to destroy her or harm her, because it was written in the novel. But that girl didn't want her to leave because she was worried about her. She had already set herself up for something unpleasant to happen. But to herself, she continued to think that this was too cruel a work, and they didn't even give her a chance. She came to the emperor in the bedroom, bowed before him, and expected what he was going to tell her. While she was looking at him, she thought, ha ha ha, I certainly understand that he is handsome, but this is starting to scare me. When suddenly he asked her name. Sophia de Blanc, your Majesty introduced herself to the Emperor. And at this time he thinks that it is necessary to behave as quietly as possible, just like a mouse. And as soon as there is a chance, escape. He told her, fine, I allow, to which she asked what exactly? What kind of nonsense are you talking, Mr. Tyrant? She asked. Imperial order, he answered. Try to put me to sleep again. She did not understand why he needed it and why he asked to do it. Then he said, but if you fail this time, then get ready to lose your head. She did not believe that he could say such things to her. Is he really capable of this? What does he even say? How can you do that to people? She thought. Why are you sitting? He asked her. He ordered her to stop messing around and start as soon as possible, otherwise he gets angry. But because she was frightened by what he said, she was unable to quickly proceed with the order. To which he told her it was an imperial order. What are you waiting for? But at that moment she was admiring his body for some reason. Well, what are you sitting down? He asked. Put down roots? She was very upset because he was so cruel to her. He sat her on his bed and ordered her to start already. But at that moment she kept thinking that if it weren't for his terrible character, he would be 100% to her taste. I'm surprised that all the readers fell in love. As soon as the illustrations came out, she caught herself thinking what she was thinking about at a moment like this. The only way to get out of his hands, he's the only one. She nevertheless decided to follow his order and agreed, told him that she could put him to sleep if that was his desire. And he, in turn, was looking forward to how she could do it again. But after that she asked to get off her. He obeyed her and lay down next to her because he was in anticipation of how she could put him to sleep that time. Then he asked her what she had to do that. Just lie there? To which she replied yes. Just lie down. Snow Queen. The Snow Queen, a story for which John won a prize in a reading competition. This marked the beginning of the creation of her ASMR content. The girl ran, did not look back, and suddenly she hugged the boy, who was frozen on the frozen river. Hot tears poured from her eyes, and the shard that was stuck in the boy's heart began to melt little by little. Yes. Yes. Go to sleep, she whispered after she saw that he had already closed his eyes and was starting to fall asleep. The boy stopped being cold and lonely. She watched him sleep and was glad when he was finally asleep. But still she continued to look at his beautiful body, although she was afraid of him. But when she felt safe while he was sleeping, she did not let go of the opportunity to enjoy his beautiful body. At some point she thought she was finally saved. At such moments he resembles a child. Maybe he has not yet become a terrible tyrant. I like this man, she thought. At this time he is sound asleep and she has no other options. How to finally leave. Yes, but now I'm definitely not up to it, she decided to leave. I don't think it's that high. It will be possible to escape. She went to the window. She said it quietly so that he would not hear. But not now, because these nights are everywhere. Then she decided to just walk out the door. She hoped that while he was sleeping, she could escape in secret and ensure her safety at last. When she left the Emperor's room, she saw something, but she clearly did not expect such a turn of events. The fact is that the magician was standing outside the door, and two guys, it seems they were eavesdropping all the time while Sophia and the Emperor were in his room. She asked, "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" She did not think that someone was behind the door and eavesdrops on everything that happened there in the room. That magician was feeling a little embarrassed, so he wanted to calm Sophia and make it clear that everything was fine, so that she would not be nervous. He could not explain why they were eavesdropping on everything that happened between them. And all because he is very interested in the fate of Sophia and the Emperor, because he believes that they should be together and worries about this. He told her, "I'm just afraid that you will get hurt, so I was worried and could not afford to miss everything that happened between you just now. I'm very sorry that I'm acting so ugly, but I could not help myself. I'm very sorry." After which he told her to take a pebble. It was similar to the one he gave her recently, which she dropped, and said if something happens, use it and call me. She accepted this gift and agreed. He decided to take her to her room so she had a good rest, because he understands that it is very difficult for her to be near the Emperor. At this time, she thinks that something did not go according to plan. Dining room for the ladies in the Palace of Marseille. At that time there was someone talking and saying, "I can't believe it. The Emperor did not drive away the girl that he found so special in her. Do not speak. That night, two men entered his bedroom. Well, it's just a rumor. Isn't that the way that girl, Ava de Thuram, answered them? You this to me? Yes, you. Didn't you spread those rumors? So it is. I'm only telling the truth, that girl said. To which the other replied, all the ladies were concerned about this news. What are you talking about? What truth are you telling? You generally know what really happened, because you judge only from the outside. Yes, because it really is, Emperor. Everyone at the table discussed this topic for a very long time. And today she again went to his bedroom, said one of them. This time the Emperor himself invited her. How can this be? No one understood what the Emperor was guided by and what was really going on between them. They say she came out of there safe and sound. At this time, the Emperor finally woke up and began to study his body. How it feels now. He noticed that he was in excellent condition, and even his head did not hurt. She really managed to put me to sleep. He was surprised. Oh Lord, I was in an unbuttoned shirt, he said. Immediately decided to dress up because the Emperor can't appear in public like this. Then he decided to go get some fresh air. He went outside and says that he is impressed by such a beautiful weather. However, just like yesterday. And the mood is great. At that moment, the magician asked him, Your Majesty, what are you doing at such a time? You could not sleep and went out. He did not understand why he told him this. What the hell are you talking about? The Emperor asked, to which that magician replied, Is that really you? Can't believe. Emperor said he slept well? Are you serious? Surprised magician. Now it became clear to him. She's the only one who managed to put him to sleep. But how did she do it? The magician asked. I think he is embarrassed to talk about it. They say the girls took turns visiting the Emperor. Now he is clearly obsessed with me. And if I die soon, as in the story, and in general, where am I? The girl standing next to her said to Sophie, Be careful, otherwise you will be out the window. It may not be safe. Surprisingly, it turned out to be the girl who had been spreading rumors about Sophia recently in the dining room. Then she introduced herself to her and said the following. Hello, Lady Blank. My name is Robin de Ciel. In response, she also said hello. And asked, Do you know me? There is no person in the palace who does not know you. You are the first one who was able to get the favor of the Emperor. Lady Sophia de Blanc. After these words, she was shocked. The location of the Emperor? I hope she does not mean anger and disgust. She still does not understand that everyone around is opposed to her, since they had not previously managed to get such an arrangement with the Emperor, who managed to get Sophia. They all envied her very much, because they did not understand why he was so kind to her. That girl said don't pay attention to other girls' words. That girl seems so nice to her, because she recently spread rumors about Sophia, and was in a bad mood towards her, and now she pretends to treat her well. I don't know how he feels about me, but I don't like any of them, Sophia thought. After that, the magician called her to go with him. He asked her to go to his room. They sat across from each other and started talking. After that, Sophia asked, Why did you bring me to this tea party? You yourself know that the Emperor suffered from severe insomnia, right? Poppy asked, to which Sophia answered him, Of course I know. To which he said, I will not beat around the bush and make my offer. Offers? Sophia asked. To which he replied, I will give you a great reward, and from now on you will help the Emperor fall asleep. Help the Emperor fall asleep, and besides, every time? Surprised Sophia. Think I don't know? I heard everything from the Emperor, he said. To which she asked, What did you hear? What are you talking about? No. What-oo? Do you, have a unique ability, is that so? She asked him, the unique ability? But I don't have that, I don't understand what you mean. She begins to feel uncomfortable being in the room with him and answering such questions. She began to remember that she really helped him sleep. And everything worked out for her. He turned off in just a minute. And he slept very well and woke up in a great mood. After which she thought, did he also fall asleep that time because I told him about myself? And yesterday was the same. Then she replied to the man, Well, yes, I have such power. We will pay you a good amount like you 500 gold, the magician offered her. She did not expect to hear such a large amount, especially since she understood that she manages to do it too easily and quickly. Multiplied by 200,000 is the profit I would make from 2 years of filming my content. They give so much for the Emperor's dream. No matter how addicted I am to money in that world, I can't be fooled that easily. Do you want me to help him fall asleep every day? Sophia asked. To which he replied, exactly. It should be an honor for you. Actually, I'm not sure, she said. Even such a great magician like you couldn't do it. Well, he said, in fact, many people have tried, but unfortunately the disease in the emperor cannot be cured by magic. And other methods are needed here, and I am powerless in this. Turns out in the whole empire only I can put the emperor to sleep? Yes, so you have to do it, he said. But I don't want, answered Sophia. The emperor thought that she would agree, because she could not refuse such an amount. But then he was surprised and asked, what, do not want? I can't use my unique power at will every time. We must try to avoid this. What? No one but me can do this? That's the only way I can escape from here. These answers, Sophia, made him very angry, so he decided to be stricter with her and raise his voice a little at her. He told her that this was the order of the emperor. But despite this, she adhered to her opinion and desire. She told him again that she did not want this. He began to blackmail her and put pressure on the weak. He told her that you can die. Is she still stubborn? I'll think twice before refusing me now. But despite the fact that he threatens her, she still does not give up and says that she will not do this. He doesn't understand how else to say it because she is very stubborn. He said to her, okay, I'll pretend that I didn't hear your refusal. I'll give you time until tomorrow. Remember, if you refuse, we will force you. Keep in mind, I won't joke. I don't need any money. I want to run away from this place. I also didn't really eat because they dragged me back and forth. Why did she go with that girl to the dining room? There was a lot of different and tasty food, and since she was hungry, she did not refuse such. She was looking forward to something delicious, because she was quite hungry. She really liked the way the food looked. It seemed to her incredibly tasty. She offered to eat to her friend, but for some reason she was not in the mood at all, and agreed. At that time there were other girls who at that time also wanted to have lunch, but they immediately drew attention to them and began to whisper to each other. Apparently Sophia and her friend attracted their attention very much. They immediately began to discuss them. One of them says, Lord, she has become so joyful, completely shameless. Of course, they noticed that everyone was looking at them crookedly, and that they were clearly not happy to see them here. There was nothing left for them other than just ignoring these stupid conversations and looks from the outside. Because in fact she did nothing wrong with anyone, did not, and is not the one for whom everyone takes her, at least in this canteen. After she was convinced that it was at her that everyone was laughing and talking, she asked if they were laughing at me now. After all, we will be offended for the first time, so why do they allow themselves to behave in such a way towards me, that I have done them a bad thing? During the meal they don't even touch their own dog. So they are because that I spent 2 nights with the emperor. Now everything is clear. Then she turned to each of them and said the following. If you have anything to say it to my face instead of gossiping behind my back. To which they answered her, why are you so sure? Completely shameless. Apparently they were embarrassed by the fact that she can afford to say what she thinks, and she is relatively freer than them. At least she can say something to their face, and not whisper behind their backs, as they do. They don't take her seriously, who didn't even debut in the secular society. Nothing can be done about the fact that she does not have good manners. Yes, you are right, Lady Eve. Is that why these words were said to me then? Pay no attention to the words of other girls. Peace was not a detailed description of the ladies of the court. Nothing can be done. You have to tell them personally. I think you are very wrong. What is the point of your excuses? One of them asked. Just enjoy the moment. After all, this was briefly told to her by some girl. To which Sophia replied, I think you lack manners. What are you saying to me? To which Sophia said, don't you think that you are too often cheeky to me? Future Empress, she said in the ear of this girl. But I wanted to settle the conflict quietly, and what did she attack? She thought. Of course, she was unpleasant that they had the right to make fun of her without knowing the situation from the inside, but she did not allow herself to be insulted and put them in their place, because she was right. They do not know to the end who she is, and what she did, and what is not. At this time, Mog came to the emperor and asked the courtier, His Majesty is still in his bedroom? To which he received the answer, yes, he is there. He went to him and addressed him, Your Majesty? To something he asked not to shout so loudly. He sat in his pajamas on his bed and obviously thought about something. But the magician continued to tell him, Now is not the time to sit, and where did yesterday's emperor go? He looked back at him and just stared at him for a few seconds. That man asked, "Weren't you asleep?" And the emperor answered, "Why are you early in the morning?" Rumors about Sophia spread throughout the palace, said the magician, and he clarified, "What are those rumors? What are you talking about?" "About the fact that she spent the night with you and will soon become an empress? They say she calls herself that." When the emperor heard this, he thought, apparently she planned so. Her last name, blank. If rumors like this spread, it will become a problem. From this moment, the most interesting begins. It was very important how the emperor would react to this, because he spares no one in such moments, and can refuse quite cruel, especially if it concerns him personally. "Instead of losing the person who can save me, it is better to endure the danger," he said. "But I can't make her an empress or my concubine. I don't want to have any connections with other families." Meanwhile, Sophia and her friend are standing and talking. This girl asked, "Sophia, are you sure you don't want to have lunch together?" To which she replied, "Yes, I will eat when no one is there. Because I cannot be in such an environment when all attention is riveted on me. I feel very uncomfortable when this happens, and I won't be able to eat calmly." They said goodbye, and each went about his business. Now have a chance. Gossip must have already spread, especially the fact that she said that she would be the future empress. He will definitely want to destroy me. Gotta clean up before they catch me. She thought she knew both his character and how he acts in such situations, and she remembers very well that he can be cruel even to those who did nothing wrong, and she spread rumors that concern him. But at that time the doors were opened and she was called. They told her that His Majesty is calling her. Please come in. She thought how she got sick of it already. In addition, she was very scared when someone entered her room without warning. At this time, he was waiting for her in his office. She was looking forward to what he would say to her because everything could be very bad in relation to her, which is exactly what she expected, because she perfectly understood what she had done. And it would be fair to call her to a conversation, which he actually did. But it's not yet clear for what purpose and what he wants to tell her. But most of all, she was afraid of his reaction, which no one can ever foresee. "Now calls me not to the bedroom, but to the office," she thought to herself. He nevertheless turned to her and said the following, "Stop talking about what you can't even think about. I hope you understand what I mean." She wondered what kind of nonsense he was talking about. Did he understand that I want to run away? She does not yet know that he is aware of the rumors that spread after her stay in the dining room. "Keep yourself in control so that your conceit does not grow just because you spent 2 nights with me," said the emperor. She asked, "What? What are you speaking about?" "You cannot become an empress. I let you be with me because you helped me sleep," he answered her. That's it. We just slept with her, he thought. "And don't overthink it, got me?" What she says to him, "I'm sorry, of course, but you apparently did not understand me." Did not understand? He even grimaces beautifully. "But now is the time for me to enjoy his face. It seems you are not afraid. Even when the tyrant who destroyed the empress and the crown prince is holding your chin," he whispered to her. To which she answered him, "But you did not destroy anyone." He got a little angry and asked, "Yes, what do you know about me?" She answers him, "I just know you definitely wouldn't do that." He was very surprised and did not know what to say to her after such a, "I'm not interested in the title of empress, and I'm not going to be one." "Are you serious?" He was surprised. "Yes," she answered. "If your actions will contradict words, you won't get off easy." "Don't worry, I won't retract what I said," answered by Sophia. After that, he let her go. "I didn't enjoy being with you, so I hope we don't see each other again. This is very different from what I heard about her. Maybe the old man came up with something for himself." The emperor speaks. "Yes, why can't I concentrate? And the issues with this girl have already been resolved." He thinks, "Or not, I need her to sleep again. But I don't like the idea of having to sleep with a court lady at all. And in general, this is the best option for her. Why does she refuse?" "Okay, I'll put you to sleep, Your Majesty. She herself allowed me to lie with her in an embrace, put me to sleep, and now she says something completely different." All this time, he continued to think about her, to reason why she does this and who she is, and most importantly, where did she come from here? He was also very interested in how she could know at least some information about him. Why did she suddenly change? Besides, it's just, "I know you definitely would not have acted like this." It was her phrase that made him really think about where she got such information from. What can she even know about me? Emperor thought. Couple of minutes ago. We see you off, and she tells them everything is fine. I'll find my own way, so it's not worth it. I have all gone to breakfast, so now is the perfect time to escape, she thought. We must quickly get to the room and pick up the bag. Lady Sophia, 1 second, this is good? No, you are not at all. She was very worried that she would get caught by someone, and she would be caught. Due to the fact that there is someone everywhere and in every room, she has very little chance of escaping. But she is already so tired of constantly serving someone and the lack of freedom that she cannot help but try. Are they attached to me, she thought? She was constantly looking around, because if anyone seed or suspected her, she would have been taken to the Emperor. She couldn't calm down for a second because everything was at stake. Either she could save herself and run away, or she would be caught, and she would stay here, and at best forever, and at worst she would be destroyed. But fortunately no one is around. We need to get out quickly before no one comes. She tried to leave the palace as quickly as possible and ran past the dining room. Because it's breakfast time, no one is here, she thought. But then something happened that she feared most of all. They saw her. Here she is. Lady Sophia, we've been looking for you. Instead of stopping, she continued to run because she hoped that she would be able to run out faster than they could stop her. She realized that she screwed up. She decided that she would not let them capture her. No way. At this time, they shouted after her, "Lady Sophia, what are you doing? Is it dangerous?" They tried to tell her that jumping from such a height of the window is not the best idea, but she thought what was wrong here, and they know perfectly well that it is not so high here. Looks scary, she's actually easy. I can't linger anymore, I thought she, and decided to jump. Everyone until the last second was sure that she would not do this, but was simply trying to scare everyone. But they did not think for what purpose she was going to do this. She decided to jump after all. Lady Sophia is shouting after her, "Impossible, impossible!" She was a little scared because she apparently counted her strength. In the moment she was capable of it, well, when she flew she was very scared. She thought for a moment, why so high? Is this spatial magic, she thought? And screamed to be rescued. Stupid, someone said. Well, someone decided to save her, and she could not even imagine who was watching all this and who decided to save her. And it turned out to be the Emperor. When she saw this, she already definitely began to panic from the fact that she did not know why he did this, and what awaits her after they land on the ground. He can just take her and destroy her for the fact that she decided to run away from him. Firstly, because she was his only chance for a good sleep, and secondly, the mere fact that she decided that he could do that to him very strongly, make angry. She had already decided not to resist and to listen to him attentively. After all, she can no longer afford to anger him even more. She thinks that she already deserves to be destroyed by him, since she has already done too much of what she had no right to do. She started screaming and begging to be let go. It turns out that the magician kept them in the air in some kind of dome and shouted, "Be careful, Your Majesty." He struggled to keep them in the air so that they would not fall, because they were at a very high altitude. Emperor said, "Hey, you," but she was already as if unconscious because she was probably very scared. "She is so delicate and fragile," he said. "Every time I touched girls, I felt disgusted. But not in this case. She is somehow special." "Hey, wake up!" He tried to wake her up. "Did you come to your senses?" he asked. She woke up and couldn't understand why she was like a princess in an embrace. But then she began to remember what happened before. Due to the fact that she was very afraid of his reaction, she began to scream, and because of this fell to the floor. But she looked at him, at least some words from him. What does he say to her? "Are you completely stupid? Why did you jump out of there?" Even when his face is covered with hair, it still shines. After all, a person's appearance is very important, she thought. "What are you even doing? Why are you touching my hair? Some weird—" To which she replies, "I'm just to blame for what happened, so I do it. I do not pursue any selfish goals, you can be sure of this." She keeps holding his hair and fixing his hair. "Is true," she said. Very surprisingly, the Emperor did not say a word all this time, although earlier he could not listen to anyone and destroy anyone before he starts talking. And now he looks at her thoughtfully and listens to everything she tells him. This is very unlike him. Got the impression that he also liked her, but he is not ready to accept it, because it seems to him that she is not suitable enough for her status, because she is an ordinary girl, and the Emperor is not supposed to start a relationship with such people. Is all, she finished. And continued, "Your Majesty, "Thank you very much for saving me. I am very grateful to you for this." To which he answered her, "If you are really grateful to me, then help me," he said. To which she answered him, "What exactly should I do for you?" At this time, that magician shouts to him, "Your Majesty, why are you putting yourself in danger?" "For this I called you to her." The emperor said, "I wonder what he was up to, because he didn't even say a bad word in her direction." The magician says to the emperor, "But if I were even a second late," to which the emperor says, "The height is small. I definitely would not die." "Sophia, have you forgotten about what is known to every inhabitant of the palace?" the man asked. But she did not understand what he meant, and asks, "What are you talking about?" "I warned so many times, if you fall out of the window you can say goodbye to life," he said. There was not a word about this in the work. The author could have noted such a moment somewhere. Sophia thought, "Why did you even do that?" he asked her, but she did not know what to answer him. At this time, the emperor ordered the magician to stop talking to the girl like that. "It is enough. Remember, until I allow it, you are forbidden to die," the emperor said. She did not understand why he treated her so much better than anyone before. Why did he leave, and surprisingly did nothing wrong to her? Although this is very strange, because at the first meeting of them, he allowed himself to raise his hand to an innocent girl. "Are you okay?" the magician asked Sophia. She replied that everything was fine. "Even if it's hard, alas, you have to endure," he said. After the emperor left, she couldn't find a place for herself, and constantly thought about why Emperor Tak began to treat her well regarding how he treated her before, because this time he had every right to punish her. But he behaved absolutely calm.